Hello, how do you harvest or when do you harvest Egyptian working onion? When do you start harvesting it and how do you harvest them in your garden? So, if you are growing Egyptian working onion or winter onion, you can start harvesting them in the spring as early as March, mid-March or late March, depending on where you live. In our Zone 5A, today is March 27, 2021, and they have new growth already. So whether it's spring or fall, in spring you can start as early as around the end of March, and in fall it will be early August, as early as early August through winter. But regardless of where you live, if you are growing them, as soon as they are 1 foot tall, the new leaf is 1 foot tall, you could start harvesting the leaf. And I'm talking about the leaves. I don't really harvest the bottom to eat. The bottom you'll harvest it in summer, or even better, right before they start growing. So for the leaves, to harvest them, how do you harvest the Egyptian working onion leaves? You can cut a few inches above the ground or a few inches below, right below the bulb. I don't know how you grow yours, but I do not dig much in my garden. So the bulb, I don't be able to see inside here, but they I tend to grow right above the ground, so they are not deep at all. And you can pretty much see the bulb not too deep in the ground. So to harvest the leaves, and this is not a foot tall, but yes, you can harvest it, and as this early that they don't have much growth, I will only harvest 1 leaf. But pretty much the rule that I like to go with is, if it's about 1 foot tall, I'll start harvesting. So you can start harvesting at that point, and you just make sure you have at least 2 leaves left on the plant, because they are perennial. You want to let them continue their growth. You don't want to harm them. But just to put few in your dish, you could harvest shorter. But if you are trying to harvest to store in your freezer, so it'll be good to start harvesting when they are that tall, and trying to harvest the young growth. The one with the brown tip are the growth from last year. They'll do just fine, but I just like to let them, help the plants continue their photosynthesis. So I like to go with the new one, and I just like to cut it. I can just demonstrate it here. I like to just cut a few from where it's growing, few inches from where it's growing. I'll just snap it there. And yes, when you are growing them, you could harvest, clean, chop, put in the bag and put in your freezer. And by stocking up on them, you could have enough for winter use. And having Egyptian onion in the garden, you will be able to, over time, have enough onion supply in your own garden. You don't need to purchase onion from the store. I have not purchased onion from a grocery store for some years now. I just rely on our winter onion, and when I'm out of them, I just do without. And something to consider is, in summertime they stop growing leaves. So if you have supply in your freezer, you could use them or go without. and in fall they will start growing again. They grow very fast in spring, and then they will stop growing once they have the stem to carry the young, the small bulb. So it is a race. In spring you have to be on top of their growth and harvest the amount you think you will need for the time they will stop growing for your supply. So it'll be good to rinse them, chop them as you like, put them in the freezer bag, put date and name on the bag, and put it in the freezer. And I don't like to harvest a lot at once. I just like to do one handful. Once I have enough in my hand, I know that I have enough for 1 gallon of freezer bag. And when you freeze them by, harvesting them, chopping them, and put them in the freezer, that means in winter time, if you are storing them for winter time, that means when you are going to cook, you need onion. Your prep has been done already. So it does save on cooking time when you freeze onion, you chop them, freeze them, and you grate carrots and freeze them as well. So those two that we put a lot in, we use in cooking, when you freeze, you prep them and freeze them, it will save you in cooking time. So I like to have them close to the house so that it's easy for me to come out and harvest them. And I have them throughout the garden. I do not touch the bulb much. I like to eat more the leaves and leave the bulb in the ground. They do better in the ground. They don't last a long time in storage. The bulb don't last long time in storage. Therefore, there is no reason for me to harvest them for winter use. They stay in the garden, and I just like to use the leaves and replace the bulb when I harvest them, or the bubbles, the small bulbs that grow on top, the top bulbs. And I could still find more, have space in my hand, but I will just clean them, put them in the bag, and put them in the freezer. And when I'm doing them, I'm freezing them is mostly for winter use. And when the weather is good, I can come out and harvest onion. I like to come outside and harvest them. So when you have them in your freezer, if it's raining, you cannot go in the garden to harvest. You could easily get onion from your freezer to use. Doesn't have to be winter necessarily, but anytime you cannot come outside because of the weather to harvest your onion, you can still harvest them. You can still use them from your freezer. Or when they stop growing new leaves in summer, you could still rely on the leaves. So they are the only type of onion that I have planted that I can use the leaves as alternative for the bulb. I have planted chive, and I still have chive in the garden, and we use the chive leaves. So they are the only two. I have planted French shallots, gray shallots, and potato onion, and I have not really eaten their leaves. They didn't the last few years in the garden because I try to treat them as perennial by leaving them in the garden all year. But when the ground get wet, they rot. So I have lost many over the years. Until now, they are practically not in the garden anymore. So the Egyptian onion and chive are the only two that you could eat the leaves and leave the bulb in the ground. They do well, but chive does not grow does not produce a lot of leaves as much as the Egyptian onion. By that I mean by the size. So those are the ones that I can rely more on, as I don't have a lot of supplies of chives in the garden as much as I have the Egyptian onion. Second, I have feeling like bunnies eat the chive more than they eat Egyptian onion. Therefore, I can grow Egyptian onion at places that are now covered by fence, and they'll do okay. But chive, they get destroyed by bunnies when I try to propagate them in the garden. So that's something to keep in mind as well. They are very resilient plant, hard to destroy, and stay in the garden all year around. You don't even need to harvest them to replant them or anything like that. So thank you so much for your time. I'm Afiavi Ojune Liberman, creators of Liberman Consulting LLC YouTube channel, Liberman Consulting LLC podcast, ninasoap.com, our blog. We have our online store, including ninasoap.com, our natural product store, label.com, custom apparels and stationery, liberoutlet.com, resale store, and liberdownload.com for digital products. Thank you so much for watching our videos. We thank you very much for all your comments, and thank you so much you all that subscribe to our channel. Thank you for your time.